Aloha everyone, welcome. Today we're going to be focusing on our feet and our ankles. And you might not be that excited by ankles, but let me tell you, ankles are really important, and we'll be talking about why in class today. But I thought it could be fun for you to have a little extra appreciation for your ankles by doing a little before test. Hi, Aunt Rita. So great to see you. You can do the before test too if you want, of a little squat, and maybe it's a big squat, whatever size squat you want, just to notice how your ankles like this position. And take a couple of squats and just notice where you feel it. If you feel it in the knees or the hips, that could be an indication that there's some limitation in the ankles. And then you can let go of the squat, come on to the hips, turn to your right, and we'll begin our sequence, and we'll just see what happens in the hips and the knees and the ankles and the feet through the rest of our class. Make sure you've got a strap nearby because we're going to need it when we're laying down. And then take your time and enjoy the process of starting to drape your body down onto the ground. I like to have my knees bent here with my knees knocked in towards one another. So if that's comfortable for you, you're welcome to do that, or stretch the legs out. And then let yourself land. Close the eyes if it feels safe. And just begin to assess. And you might notice something in the physical body, an area that feels tight, or maybe that you're more tired than you realized. And just give yourself a few breaths to be with your physical body, your mental body, and your energetic body. And then pay a little extra attention to your exhale, giving yourself the opportunity to release and soften, becoming more present. And as you become more present, your body gets a little bit better at talking to you. So you might notice, oh, my low back feels a little tight. If you feel that, wiggle around. Let your shoulders adjust. Let your feet move around. Start to listen to the signals that your body gives you. And it might not be pain, but even just feeling like a pressure can be a signal, or a gentle agitation. And then bring your hands to your hip bones and start to rock your pelvis forward. That's where the low back arches. And then rock your pelvis back. That's where the low back flattens. And then let this movement become less and less, because honestly, we probably have one we tend towards, and we don't want to overdo it, right? If your pelvis is already rocked forward, you don't really need to rock forward more than that. And start to notice a space where the deep core turns on, the spine gets a little longer, and I know that's happening for myself when I feel this urge to tuck my chin and give the base of my skull a little more space from my shoulders. And then pause there. If the legs are straight, you can bend them at this point. If the knees are knocked together, you can create space between them, and just take a couple of breaths with this neutral pelvis, neutral spine. And then maintain all of this as you grab your strap. Place the strap around the ball of the left foot, and see if you can maintain neutral pelvis and neutral spine with the leg extended towards the sky. The knee can bend however much it needs to for the hamstring to feel happy. We're really more interested in our foot here. So look at your cute little foot. wiggle your toes around a little bit. Notice how you feel when you look at your foot. Are you like, who is this mysterious figure? Or does it feel familiar? Do you find your foot cool? Do you find your foot like kind of gross? Just notice what your feelings are. And then start to take the strap and create a little friction between the strap and the ball of the foot, pulling it left and right. And then start to allow the strap to come down to the arch of the foot. And then eventually all the way to the heel. And then make your way back to the ball of the foot eventually, but enjoy the ride. And then relax the arms so they're still holding the strap, but the shoulders can anchor towards the floor. Bend the knee more deeply. And as you gently pull on the strap, notice how the ankle flexes. This is called dorsiflexion, and this is the movement that might feel limited in a squat. It's an essential movement for walking, running, and of course squatting. Then the opposite action of the ankle, plantar flexion, happens when you press the ball of the foot into the strap and extend the leg. This is like standing on your tippy toes. So let the leg come long. If the hamstring feels tight, just push the leg forward so that the foot's not as close to the head. And let's play between those two shapes a couple of times. So bend the knee, let the ankle flex, hands can pull on the strap a little bit, almost like the leg compresses like a spring, and then push through the ball of the foot, extending through the leg. As you repeat this, start to notice what's happening in the low back and in the spine, and see if you can maintain that beautiful neutral that you created in the beginning. If the ankle feels tired, see if you can relax here and not press as hard, maybe not go as far, and just be aware of that. And then make sure the knee and the hip feel happy and comfortable with the amount that you're flexing and extending. The next time the leg comes straight, pause there, take a couple of breaths, and then slowly let the strap start to slide through the hands so the leg reaches all the way back down to the ground as you maintain neutral pelvis and neutral spine. And then as it eventually lands, release the strap, let your hands relax to the sides. Pause for a moment, just letting the whole left side of the body relax completely, like a half shavasana. Focus on the breath. You might notice some warmth in the joints. And then very slowly drag the left heel in to meet the right. Reach the hands forward, and let's take a moment in bridge pose, letting the hips lift. And as you do so, notice the difference between left and right sides. Notice if the left side feels a little more aware, awake, supported. Release the hips down, and do this just a couple of times. Letting the hips lift and lower, feeling one vertebra at a time. Leave the floor, and then the next time the hips come down, place the strap out of the way. We'll come back to it in a moment. Grab behind the legs and start to rock and roll up to seated. And enjoy the pathway, enjoy the massage on the spine as you come up to seated. Pause there, and I forgot to tell you to hit play on your music. So while you're upright, if you're following along with the playlist, you're welcome to hit play now. Grab behind the legs and take a moment to lean back, trying to lengthen through the spine, and just be aware of the neck here. Feel the shoulders drawing down, so there's a sense of opening across the chest. And then start to trace a big circle with the sits bones. So you're rolling to one side, you're rolling back to the other side, massaging the base of the pelvis. You can anchor the big toes here, just to have a little more awareness of the feet and noticing how the feet might muscularly change as you shift to these different angles. And then cross the right foot in front of the left. Place the left hand behind you and pivot into a tabletop. Tuck the toes and start to draw some big circles with the hips, or they can be little circles because this action is going to dorsiflex the ankles, so it might feel intense or uncomfortable. So just notice how as the hips come closer to the heels, how the sensation in the feet and the big toes may change. And if you don't like that change, you can make the circle smaller so the hips stay further from the ankles. And then grab your blanket, place it underneath your knees, and grab one of your blocks and place it underneath the right hand. Step your left foot forward. So this was the same foot that we were working with the strap. And look down at your big toe. Try to lift all of your toes from the ground and then just put your big toe down. And if you can't see me very well, you can turn 3/4 so that you're still on your mat, but it's easier to look at the screen or the human. Try putting down just your big toe and then lift your big toe, and try putting down just your pinky. And then play with this a couple of times and be really patient. Be compassionate with yourself. It's okay if it's hard. Just try to see what's possible. And if that is accessible for you, as you lift the toes, you can play with spreading them and starting to put one toe down at a time. From the pinky to the big toe, and then from the big toe the other way. And then the next time you lift and spread the toes, you can place them all down. And actually 2 blocks might be handy here. Place a block underneath the other hand as well. And just take a couple of breaths to feel the equal weight in both the back knee and the front foot. And then very slowly imagine taking the weight out of the back knee without actually lifting it. And just notice what changes in the rest of the body. And then release that and play a couple of times, just taking the weight out of the back knee. You might feel how the core engages, the feet engage, the spine might elongate, bring the neck into good alignment if you feel that extra work. And then eventually start to straighten that back leg and notice if you feel extra supported because of the unweighting that you did to prepare. And then release the back knee down and do that 2 more times on your own, starting with the unweighting and then almost like effortlessly letting the back leg extend. And I find if I truly unweight first, there really is no effort as the back leg fully lifts and extends. Let's take one breath with the leg extended. If you want to circle the hips from side to side, you're welcome to do that. I find that it feels really nice in my front hamstring as I get to explore the lateral hamstring and the medial hamstring. And the next time the hips are at center, start to push into the front leg, letting the front leg lengthen. Let the spine round just a little bit at the bottom. Keep the head in line with the spine. And then slowly lower the back knee, press down into the front foot, send the hips forward to roll up and make a big circle with your arms. And then place your hand to the right block, move the left block out of the way and slide the right knee forward underneath you. Place the right sit bone down, move your blanket out of the way. Make sure your strap is close. And you can slowly recline. I'm going to move my blocks out of the way just so the shot's better. And stretch the whole body out in a big X. And take a mini Shavasana, just letting everything go. And as we prepare to do the second side, you might notice a difference between sides. You can be with that sensation. And then bend the knees, soles of feet to the earth. Take a moment, hands to hips, find your level pelvis. And then lift your right leg and bring your strap around the ball of the right foot. And we'll start to wake up the right foot by sliding the strap from side to side over the ball of the foot, and then eventually over the arches, and then all the way down to the heel, but you can enjoy the path. Remember, the knee can bend any amount, so this doesn't feel intense, but just be aware of what your pelvis and your spine are doing. Be aware of how this feels in the shoulders. Sometimes when we're doing something to the foot, we don't even notice the work that's being applied to the arms and the rest of the body. See if you can zoom out. And then bring the strap back to the ball of the foot. Start to bend the knee and allow the ankle to dorsiflex. And so that's what it's naturally going to do. It's as if you were doing a chair pose, that same action. And then start to press the ball of the foot into the strap, extending the leg. It's fine to let the foot kick forward if that feels better in the hip. I enjoy that myself. And then take a couple of those flexes and extends. And it's kind of fun because the hip, the knee, and the ankle all flex. And then the hip, the knee, and the ankle all extend. And it is a little tricky because we call it dorsiflexion and plantar flexion of the ankle, but plantar flexion is extension. Don't ask me why. And again, just be aware of how these actions are relating to the rest of the body, and see if you can hold pelvis and spine neutral, and then that's going to mean that the deep core is staying on as you go through these movements. And the next time the leg extends, you can pause there. And we didn't do this on the first side, but I really want to do this on the second side. Imagine your foot almost like a leaf starting to sway from side to side, caught on like a gust of wind as it makes its way to the floor. You can let the strap fall or glide through the hands, and add just that really gentle side to side movement. Should feel very soothing and natural and not strainy at all. Just a couple inches one way or even less, and then the other. Then eventually the foot makes it to the floor. It's funny because it doesn't go straight down. I'm noticing as my leg lands, it feels like it's traveled like such a very, very, very far way, like it's entered into the core of the earth. You can release the strap and pause for just a moment, letting that right side fully relax, noticing any warmth in the joints of the foot, the ankle, the knee, the hip, or even in the low back. And then drag the right heel in to meet the left. Reach the hands towards the heels. Anchor the big toes. Slowly start to reach the knees forward and then a little wider so the hips lift away from the ground. We're going to take a few pulses here. Option to hold bridge if that feels good. Option to take some single-legged bridges. And so what that would mean is the next time the hips are up, try hovering one leg and then placing the spine down and then lifting the hips again with that leg staying lifted. It's easiest if the knee is in the chest, and then it becomes harder the more the more the thighs become parallel. So you can play with any one of those variations and then be sure to try the other side. And this can be a great way to notice maybe one of your glutes is stronger. That's very, very common, so don't feel bad, but just log it. If it feels easier on one side, go to the other side and do some extra ones. Make sure you're breathing. And then once you feel balanced, let's all take a mini shavasana because those glute bridges can be kind of intense. Take a natural breath in, audible exhale out, and just let your body melt into the earth for one moment before we roll up to seated. Grab behind the thighs. Start to rock and roll. If that doesn't feel good, you can come all the way up to seated, but if you enjoy it, take a few extra to massage through the spine. See if you can rock evenly so you stay square on your mat. And then eventually we'll meet upright. And feel free to turn slightly towards me so it's easier to follow along. Grab behind the thighs just like we did before. Find your tall spine. Two options here. You can keep the feet down as you did before, or this time you can hover the feet and play with flex pointing the feet. So it's kind of like making Barbie feet. Let the toes spread and the balls of the feet press forward. If this feels easy, you can go hands free. Allows for a little more spaciousness as you lean from side to side. Just make sure it doesn't feel intense in the hip flexors. If it does, I recommend grabbing behind the thighs and then kicking the legs into the thighs as you draw the shoulder blades down, and then you can feel it more in your back as you sway from side to side. And then cross left ankle in front of right. Grab your blocks and bring them over to the space behind you. And then plant your right hand behind you, drop your knees to pivot to your tabletop. Tuck the toes under if they're not already and start to go for those hip circles like we did before, massaging into the ankles. If it feels good, you can keep the hips over the heels and sway them from side to side. If you want to play with bringing a little more weight into the feet, you can roll up so that the hips are on the heels. If you're doing that, I like to rock from side to side so that I feel the pinky toe side and the big toe side, and it doesn't just stay in one spot. And then grab your blocks, place them in under the shoulders and step your left foot forward. Okay. Pop quiz. Can anyone remember if this is the same foot that we did on the first side? I feel like we have to switch. That foot looks too familiar to me. Not true, Johnny. I'm seeing the thumbs up. That means we did have to switch. Yes! Way to go, everyone. Thank you. Okay, so option for blanket behind the back knee, the new knee, the knee that wasn't behind before. And then we can, again, go to that 3/4 if you'd like, just so it's easier to see me. I'm going 3/4. Look at your beautiful new unfamiliar foot and lift all 5 of those cute little toes. Place the big toe down only. Lift all 5. Place the little toe down only. And then try that a few times. And then if that's becoming familiar, you can eventually lift and spread the toes and try going big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, biggest toe. Has anyone successfully gone from big toe to small toe? I don't know if that's physical. You did it? It's possible. I was going to say, oh, that one's not possible. The muscles don't work that way, but Satyam cracked the code. So you can go crazy. Try any order you want. Whenever I do this toe stuff, it reminds me of when I was a nanny, and my cutest little nanny charge was putting gloves on. And he got so frustrated, and he was just like, my fingers won't do what I want them to do. So it's okay. It's part of learning and growing. But it gets easier each time. And I bet he's so good at putting gloves on now. He's like 12 years old. But so now we can relax with the front foot and take a moment, equal weight, front foot and back leg. And then start to take the weight out of the back knee. And just notice what engages in your core, what stabilizes in each leg, and then release And even let the hips soften a little bit, and do that a couple times, just pulsing weight in and out of the back knee. And then you can keep playing with that, but if it feels safe, if the low back is comfortable there, then you can start to slowly extend the back leg. And as you do that, nothing else in the body should change. And the reason that matters is because if you start to extend the leg and the pelvis goes forward, what it means is you're not actually getting any length through that left psoas. So you want to keep the pelvis stable and just let the leg extend, and it's probably going to be harder. That's how you know it's the good stuff. The next time the leg extends, if it feels comfortable, you can pause there and breathe. Option to do some lateral circles, so that's as if you had a hula hoop. And then place the back knee down. Are you okay? And slowly push the hips forward to roll up one vertebra at a time. Big circle with the arms. And then place the left hand on the block, move the other block out of the way, glide the left knee forward. And this is sort of a fake out moment. We're not coming onto the back, but I just wanted everything to be symmetrical. You can move your blanket out of the way. And then replace your hand, left hand to left block. And two options here. It can be tricky to shift the weight into the right foot here. So if you need a little extra, you can twist into the right, and then as you release the twist, place the hand, and there will be a little extra space to step that leg back. So I can demo that. Twist into the leg, and then as you release the twist, you can take the momentum and allow it to step the leg back from where it came from. If you figured it out, it's kind of fun, so you can do it a couple of times on your own, because I see some perplexed looks here. That's okay. If you're not sure what's going on, let's just meet in a wide straddle with the blocks underneath the hands. Okay. Bend into one knee at a time. And just notice how that changes the sensation in the leg that's straightening out. Try to keep the outer edges of the feet pinned down to the floor. Notice what happens to the arches as you go side to side. Try to keep the spine fairly neutral here. So the knees, I'll go 3/4. The knees can be really deeply bent, and that's going to help the spine stay more neutral, so you're not feeling any pulling in the low back or the hamstrings. It's almost like more of an athletic stance, but we're pretty chill. And then come to center, bring the hands to the hips and anchor the big toes down, but start to press down into the heels as you send the hips forward, rolling up. And just heel toe the feet in really slowly so you get internal rotation of the hips and then external, internal, external. And pause in Tadasana and close the eyes if you can balance there. And just notice if it's really easy to have your awareness down in your feet. We've done a lot of extra special things for the feet. If you're following along with the music, you can go to the next track. Feel free to grab some water. I need some water, so don't make me feel like I'm holding you up. If you drink water, then I feel like it's okay. This was not the plan, but my ankles feel so good that I just want to go for a little walk. Oh, that's cool. Jamie's doing like kind of a running man sort of thing. So you don't even have to leave your mat. You can skip around. You can go for a normal walk. You can go for like a cartoon person walk. But explore your feet and your ankles a little bit. And you've probably noticed, someone who's injured or maybe an elderly person has trouble with this forward step. And that is because of the limited dorsiflexion in the back foot. It's like they sort of avoid it and they start to like shuffle side to side. And so take some time as you do your dance moves or you're walking to be aware of that action of the back ankle and find some gratitude for the fact that your body does that. And I feel like just having that consciousness is what's going to help you keep it for your whole life, so you can walk until you're 108 years old. And then make your way back to your mat, but you don't need to rush. We're in it for the long haul. This is like lifetime practice. Yeah, cool. Go tippy toes. That's the opposite. It's always good to keep it balanced. Let's meet in the center of our mats. And then we'll do the reverse. So we'll let the heels come out. That's internal rotation. And then toes come out, external rotation. Do this a few times and actually try to feel what's happening in your hip sockets as you do that. Maybe you can feel the femur rotating. And then pause and make some circles with the hips. And if it doesn't feel smooth, you may have gone too far. Like if the legs are really stretched, it might feel like a little clunky or you can't really move, in which case just take a couple heel toes back in and make sure you can make some nice, graceful hulas. Go the opposite direction just to keep it balanced. And then from center, very slowly lift the heels, turn the toes out and let the heels come down. Anchor the heels down, and as you press them into the floor, let the knees bend a little bit. Take a couple of squats here. And for me, whenever I come into a goddess pose, the most interesting part is what my sits bones are doing. So just feel the base of your pelvis, and I like to feel my sits bones going towards my heels. You might have a little extra awareness of your hamstrings when you do that. And as you do that, if you want to inch the feet out a little bit, you can, because we did a pretty short stance, or at least I did. And the next time you come down into goddess pose, just be aware of the angle of the thighs and the feet. If you notice that the knees are coming in side of the big toes, just point the toes forward, and then magically the big toes will be inside of the knees. And so that's just a great way to make sure you're not putting pressure on the medial collateral ligament. And then float the arms to a T, and as you exhale, swoop the arms down and lift the hips a couple of inches. And then inhale to release that, and exhale, repeat. So it's a swoop and a lift happens together. Repeat this a few times on your own. Remember, it's the exhale. And try to feel how that action is almost like tying everything together. You might feel the sits bones literally coming slightly closer together. You might feel like a suction cup of the pelvic floor lifting as you exhale and come up. And the next time you float up, pause there and try lifting one heel. It can be a little or it can be a lot. And then the inhale is the ha, and the exhale, other heel. And just play with this going from side to side. And again, you want to feel it more in the hamstrings and the back of the leg. You can even touch that area if you're like, I don't know where I'm feeling it. But you don't want all of the work to be in the hip flexors and the quads. So if that happens, you can take a little break. Actually, let's all take a little break. Toes forward, hands to the blocks, deep bend in the knee so there's no strain anywhere. You can hold still if the body's craving that, or you can draw some circles or sway from side to side by bending one leg at a time. And then slowly heel toe the feet in. So they're about the distance apart of your blocks. anchor the big toes, anchor the heels, and start to first bend the knees, drape the body over the thighs. And then start to press the hips forward, letting the spine roll up, letting the arms float. Nice, easy backstroke. And just make sure there's no pain in the back when you do that. If it doesn't feel good to roll up, you can always flatten the back first. But if it feels fine, it is fine. From here, I'm going to turn to the side just so you can see me. Let's play with a couple of chair poses. So that's the dorsiflexion. And then floating up to a tippy toe Tadasana. The arms can float back if that feels good. Take a few of these on your own. And if it feels good, you can get pretty saucy with your chair. It can be a very teeny little chair. But it can also be a really high bar stool, right? So you choose your chair. But we've done a lot with the ankles, and so you might notice that there is a lot of space here. And just get curious how it feels, what's going on. You can also get curious about your tiptoes. Maybe your balance is on point and you want to stay, no pun intended. You want to stay on point. That's cool too. And then let's eventually meet back in Tadasana, but no need to rush. Oh, Satyam's going single-legged squat. That was pretty cool. So you can do whatever you want at any point. Just know. Didn't mean to show off for you. It was just cool. I like seeing what's happening, you know. So imagine just taking a standing Shavasana. Let everything go. And notice, sometimes the sensations in the body are warmth or tingling, but sometimes it's like, ooh, that was too much, right? Is there anything that's feeling cranky? And try to take stock of that. So as we continue to move, you can be really compassionate. And then let's begin again. Heel, toe, the feet out. Let's end with the toes out. Anchor big toes, knees go nice and wide. Make sure that they're tracking out towards the toe that's next to the pinky, so wider than you even think. And you might feel extra support here when the knees go out towards the pinky. Try to find neutral pelvis, neutral spine. Let's do a couple of pelvis floats. Again, if you want to explore going deeper as the body warms up, you're welcome to. That looks really awesome. Natarajani. You can add a little side to side. Natarajani is a professional dancer, so I like to take cues from her. And then let's sneak into Virabhadrasana 2. So staying low in this squat, just let the feet start to turn. The right foot goes out 90 degrees. Left foot comes in just a little bit. And then press into the legs so there's that even support. And see if you can find that familiar feeling that we just did in Goddess, where the right knee tracks wide and the muscles on the outside of the leg are supporting you. And take a moment in Virabhadrasana 2, and you can hold still, or if you enjoyed the floating in Goddess, you can do the same thing here as you push the arms down, coming out of it just an inch. And then inhaling to let everything spread out, and then exhaling to come out just an inch. Take a couple pulses like that. Give yourself permission at any time to inch that back foot in and even turn it in more. That's what my hips prefer. And the next time you're in Virabhadrasana 2, pause there. And just for fun, you can play with floating the front heel and placing it down, and do that a couple of times. And as the heel floats, notice what happens the pelvic floor and the back leg. And then lift the back heel and very delicately start to lift the back foot, turning your hips square with the right side of your mat, right? And you want to be really light as you do that. Start to squeeze the left leg in behind the right, like you indelicately have to go to the bathroom. And then shift the weight back into the right foot and just take a mini eagle pose. Give yourself a hug with the left arm on top. And then slowly place the top foot down and turn to the left and lower any amount. If you were enjoying the squat, you can come into the squat. Maybe your block's right there if you want more support in the squat. If squatting down that low doesn't feel good, you can take your blocks and just turn to a forward fold. And that was kind of a fun transition, so I do want to do it one more time. So start to turn to the right. Take your mini eagle pose, and we came into it in a funny way where the back leg, the left leg, just scooted right in, and we took one moment in the eagle, just a nice easy one, and then set the right foot down and turn to the left, either into your squat or your forward fold. And remember, you can explore any of these positions. If you're in a squat, sometimes it can be fun to play with lowering one knee at a time to keep the ankle moving. And then let's all place our hands to blocks and lift the hips if we're not already there. Come up with a flat back or press the hips forward to roll up. And we'll do that on the other side. So heel toe, the feet internal, external, internal. And you can keep the stance as small as you want. Toes come out. We'll just take a couple of squats. And here, my favorite part of this is feeling the sense of lifting, right? So instead of it being about how far you go, try to let it be how light and supported you can feel. Option for one heel, or even this is our last one, so if you want to go both heels, you can. And then lower both heels and very gently start to sneak into your Vira 2 where the feet rotate. You still have that sense of lightness and support in the pelvic floor. Float the arms to a T, and it's totally fine to just hold. We've done so much to warm the body here, so you might feel like stillness is perfect. You're also welcome to take a couple of those pulses where it's the exhale to swoop as you lift just an inch out of it and feel that sense of the legs working together, the pelvis being supported, the spine being light. And then option to play with lifting the left heel. And as you do that, try to notice that's engaging the soleus muscle. The deep calf connects to the deep core. So I don't really care about lifting the heel. What I care about is igniting everything that turns on when that work is happening. So try to be interested in that aspect. And then we're going to rotate to the left, and you want to be really careful with the hip sockets here. So the weight shifts into the left foot, and then take your time starting to turn the pelvis forward so there's no grinding between femur and hip socket. And when the hips are eventually squared, squeeze the back leg in. You can stay right there with both legs on the floor for a supported eagle, or you can shift the weight into the right foot, letting the left leg hover. Option to cross the left leg over, and then give yourself a big hug with the right arm on top. And feel free to bend into the knee, bend into the ankle. We've done all that dorsiflexion action, so you might notice that you can squat quite low in that right leg if you want to. And then eventually start to float up. Place the left foot in front of you, and you've got your options, right? You can turn into your squat, or you can turn into your forward fold, or maybe you can turn all the way to the other side and come into your sneaky eagle. That's what I'm going to call it, sneaky eagle on the other side. And so for the last couple of minutes, I want you to have some fun with it. You can go from side to side. You can play with a little squat. If you're going into the squat, you've got the option for some knee drops. And just notice what has opened up for you in your foot, in your ankle, your knee. If the knee drops are going well, you can take some walks forward. Going through the whole range of motion of toe, ankle, knee. I haven't really mastered that one. Your back knee, let's see, opens off to the side and then glides forward. That's it. And then let's make our way back to our mat. And you can either stack 2 blocks or just one. But I want you to be in a really comfortable squat. And if 2 blocks isn't comfortable, then you can do this in a chair. I do like the widest way so that the pelvis feels really supported and it's not like wobbly like you're gonna fall. And then find your way somewhere between the goddess pose and the squat. So it's maybe a little wider than your squat was, but narrower than the goddess pose. And feel the sits bones contacting the block. And then just like we did in our modified Paripurna Navasana, start to circle the hips around, trying to feel all the connection points to the sits bones, finding the support on the side body, the back body, the front of the body. If it feels good, the arms can open into a big bowl shape, where they can do anything that feels best for the shoulders. And if you're enjoying this exploration, you can also do figure 8s around the sits bones, and it just gives you a little bit more to explore. But if that's confusing or hard to do, circles are wonderful and perfect as well. And just see if this action is waking up more support between the sits bones and the block. Those muscles are more intelligently engaging. And as more wakes up, maybe you notice you've got more space. Maybe the legs want to walk around. Maybe the spine wants to start to move a little more expressively, and the hands can follow without thinking, just naturally. If you find a shape that feels really good, you're welcome to stay there and breathe. And we'll just take a few more breaths. So if you did something interesting on one side and you want to make sure you have the other side. And then eventually be really tender with yourself and let the feet gently heel toe in, press from the outside, almost this like reabsorption sensation, letting the legs come back together like you're a mermaid with a beautiful mermaid tail. And then slowly make your way off of your blocks, move them out of the way. Bring your right heel in front of your left sit bone. I love doing Urdhva Matsyendrasana without the cross. So I love doing it with my left leg forward like this. If you want to cross the leg over, you certainly can. My body prefers this. So you can play with any spectrum between the two. Just be aware of the front foot and anchor the front big toe. Feel that support coming up from the ankle, and slowly press the legs down so the spine becomes buoyant. You can twist up and over to the left. Take a couple of breaths here. And I love, after all those sort of big opening positions, the ability to wind everything around that center point. Be aware of your neck. Twist from the bottom up, and you do have the option to gaze back, but try to do it last. As you breathe here, notice the sensation between the lungs and the rib cage and the muscles of the twisting. And then we can slowly come back to center and switch legs, whichever variation you did. Play with putting the foot similarly. And then take a moment to be aware of that front foot, tall spine, and let the movement originate from this action of the legs almost squeezing together. And notice how when the legs squeeze together, the spine lifts and starts to naturally twist to the right. Left hand can come to the knee, right fingertips behind you. And breathe smoothly and steadily here. And then let your body keep twisting to the right so your legs go towards the short edge of the mat. And grab your blanket and roll it up so it's ready in a moment for Shavasana. Keep it off to the side. And before we come into Shavasana, option to take your two blocks, place the soles of the feet together, and let the outer thighs rest on the blocks. And here's the trick. Instead of having the flat edge of the block on the floor, balance the block on one of its edges so that you've got a nice flat edge to catch your leg. And let this be so much smaller than your range of motion. So you'll notice that I have my block up on the medium height instead of the lowest height, because you want to keep tying everything back together. We're not trying to open our hips here. We're actually trying to get the block to support the femur in the hip socket. We want to feel the legs integrating into the core. Does that make sense to everybody? You feel really supported? Great. And so from there, start to, you can place the blanket even though we're not using it yet, but then that way you don't have to move it underneath your knees when we head to Shavasana in a moment. And then start to drape your body back. And I notice I have to send my hips forward as I slowly come back onto my sacrum and then the spine. Make adjustments to your blocks. The higher the blocks go towards the hips, the more support they're going to provide. And I actually just slid my blocks up higher, and it felt like, where have you been all my life? So feel free to try that. And again, a lot of support here, feeling the block holding the femur in the hip socket. And then find your neutral pelvis, neutral spine, long neck, so the base of the skull reaches towards the wall behind you. And then the hands can rest on the belly or wherever's comfortable for you. When it feels right, you can pause your music. And just let the body relax and be held. And you're welcome to stay here for as long as this position feels useful. And then at any time you can remove the blocks and extend the legs into Shavasana. And we have a generous amount of time, over 15 minutes, to relax completely. So enjoy however you would like. And then pick a focal point, maybe the heart center, maybe your breath. And challenge yourself to stay conscious and aware as you rest very deeply. And there is a very special nourishment that's possible with this conscious relaxation. You can take your time waking up and breathing and becoming more aware of your physical body without losing the deeper awareness that you've sunken into during your conscious rest period. You're going to do some chanting, and so I invite you to take your time enjoying the process of coming out of Shavasana, and when you eventually come upright, you're welcome to join in with the mantra. It's written on the screen. It's the Mrityunjaya mantra, and for those of you here in person, I passed out a copy, and Fox, it's the second one in your book. And this mantra is for liberation. And so as you chant and you feel the vibrations inside, let yourself ride the wave and become freer and freer. to let go very deeply, even deeper than Shavasana. And just notice if the chanting has shifted something inside. And I don't want to name it for you. So I invite you to feel inside of your heart. And whatever that shift feels like or represents, let it be like a compass point directing you in the direction of the inner self. Now that you have found your bearings, let each of your breaths be like a step in that direction. True magic of yoga is it recognizes that we're already perfect. And so as you take these breaths and these steps towards the inner self, you don't have to change anything about who you are. You get to become more and more you with each breath. And so see how deeply you can relax and trust that the deepest you is truly perfect and joyous and free. Thank you so much for practicing. Namaste. Depending on your time zone, sweet dreams, or enjoy your feet. If it's early, maybe you can skip or play or do something that involves your feet. And I look forward to seeing you soon. You can end the video, but I'll still be here. It will just go black for 1 second.